Welcome back to Ask Uncle Lee Wednesday. And I just wanted to first mention that if you watched the video on Monday, which was about vampirism, that was actually the first time I've done like a proper, I guess we could call it documentary style type of video. I am definitely not an actor, but I would like people's opinion on whether it was actually worth watching, if it was just a whole load of rubbish, and it was awful trying to watch it. Just anyway, whatever opinion you've got, just let me know, and if it's a positive kind of review, then I will do something probably once a month in that same style, a bit longer, a bit more documentary based, more history into a topic and all such things. So do let me know about that. But anyway, it is Ask Uncle Lee Wednesdays, and we've got some questions. If you have your own questions you would like to ask revolving around magic and witchcraft, then please just drop them into the comments of any of the Ask Uncle Lee videos, and I will add them to the list. Alright, so let's get going. Welcome to my channel. You are entering the world of magic and mysticism with your host, Lee W. Johnson. Keep the lights on and help improve the channel by becoming a supporter for just $2.99 per month. Hit the join button. Okay, so first of all, let's start with Jinx Rebel 69. At what point can a beginner practitioner start actively practicing rituals, reaching out to spirits, especially the demons or the demonic, assuming they already have a basic studious understanding? What's stopping you? Really, that's the question. There's no reason you cannot start practicing. I do understand the question, but I think when it comes to beginner practitioners and trying to figure out when you can actually start doing rituals or talking with demons or invocations or whatever that may look like, yes, first of all you need your basics, your foundations. You make sure you've got strong foundations so that you can then build a good strong house on top of it, and that involves meditation. It involves various rites, depending on what tradition you're actually following. If you're following like Golden Dawn or Thelemic type of ceremonial magic, then you're going to want to start with things like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, going into things like, depending on which area, like the Star Ruby or the Star Sapphire rituals or something like that, because that helps you to develop yourself, work with the energies you're going to be working with, and all of those things. But yeah, it depends on what you're following. I mean, if you're following Wicca, then you're going to want to start, casting a circle in a Wiccan fashion, calling the watchtowers and all those things, just so you can get used to the various rituals and how the energy actually moves, how it works, how it moves around the space you're actually creating, and how it affects yourself, your own body, your own, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, how all of these things start affecting you. So you're going to want to do ritual, but as I said, you've got to start with those foundations of meditation, concentration, one-pointed focus. All of those things, those are going to be foundations, but at the same time, there's no reason you can't do ritual, you can't do spell work. Another thing you will want to incorporate, and like religiously, is journaling, keeping a record of everything. So make sure you are keeping a record of everything you're doing. If you do a spell work, if you do a ritual, then record, as I've said before, what the moon phase was, what the weather's been like, any specific events that may seem relevant. If there was like a death in the family, or you had to take your dog to the vet, something which would affect you emotionally, and all of that, then definitely take note of that. Because you'll have a date in the actual journal itself. You don't really need to worry too much about the moon phase and what the planets are doing. You can note it down, a lot of people do, but because you've got a date, you can actually track it back. I mean, there's websites and software now where you can track back to see what was happening with the planets and things if you needed something more specific. But I like to just check what the moon phase is, and usually, what zodiac the moon is in at the time, so I can get kind of a planetary influence of what's going on at that time. But I'm not an astrologer, so I don't get that, quite that specific. But anyway, so keep your record, create your foundations, and then you're good to go. Just do your rituals, do your spell work. Start building a relationship with a spirit. But that obviously involves study as well. You've got to study what you're going to be doing, learning about the actual tradition you're going to be following, learning what their rituals are, how they're actually performed, and all of that. So obviously the study part as well. But there's no actual point when we can say, you can now start doing a ritual. You can start doing it right at the beginning. Most of that is learning what the ritual actually is, learning what the words are, what the movements are, what the symbols and the signs are that you're going to be doing. And then once you've got the pattern, once it becomes second nature, then you start working with the energies. But that period in the beginning is the study phase again. It's learning the actions, the physical side of what you're doing before you can then focus on the energy side. Because at the beginning you're going to be, thinking about, what do I do next? Did I say that right? And then you've got to go and look up, did you say it right? Did you do something different to what you were supposed to do? So there's all those physical things that you have to learn and study and figure out before you get to the energy aspects. So that whole period is creating the foundations and keeping records and study and just practice. But as I said, there's not really a point where we kind of say, now you can start doing ritual. There are specific certain types of practices which we would only give somebody on an advanced stage, because if we give them too early, it can actually damage you for the rest of your life, metaphysically and physically and emotionally and spiritually. It can just damage you, and there's no coming back from it. So there's certain practices and certain things which are not spoken about in these kind of videos or on websites or things, because they will hurt, they will damage, they will harm people until they actually get to that stage. But what you're seeing on here, go for it. Absolutely no reason why you shouldn't. Okay, so let's have a look at the next one. Okay, this is from Life Drinker Zero. Lee, what do you think about the original being God playing both roles, good and devil? From information, he was comprised of 27.5 negative frequencies. That's a lot of negativity for someone who held creation in his hands. People don't understand that God was not what they think it was: extremely abusive, abusing, killing planets, stars, and beings all over the creation. And it was the first suicide when it tried to kill itself after being alone for so long, but he failed. But what happened was the ending up breaking a portion of his self, of him pushing it away, then realizing that part was sentient source, and that's how Mother God became that half. Sounds crazy, right? But think about it. Go into the source field, see what happened. Sorry, that was a long one. My English writing is horrible. Don't worry about the English writing. We can get through it. We manage. But now, this was also in relation to a guy named Arae Essexx. I did go and have a look at who this was. And, he follows along the same lines or continues the work of Edgar Cayce. Now, Cayce was a very interesting character. He was a fantastic healer, amazing healer. And then he got into the whole channeling, and he started channeling the Atlanteans and all of those things. And like so many other people who started out in this great way, I think it for me anyway, not for everybody. Everybody, some people do do follow Cayce, and they think he was a fantastic person. As I said, he was a fantastic person. But I think it kind of got led astray a little, and started getting into more kind of science fiction-y stuff, even with Cayce. But originally a great healer and everything else. But this is where this is all placed in. This guy, Arae Essexx, is definitely doing the same thing. And I was watching some of his videos, and he was doing a healing for David Icke. As far as conspiracy theorists go, I would place this guy in that realm. He's just interesting. Interesting to listen to, interesting to ponder, but definitely take with a grain of salt. So all of this, I would really, really, really take with a grain of salt. If it's something you believe in, that's fine. We all have our own worldview, we all have our own beliefs and everything else, but at the same time, got to keep questioning that worldview and keep questioning those beliefs, just to make sure that what you are understanding as a reality is not being led astray by fantasy. Really the best way to put it, I think. I can't really go into any of this because it's really not anything I would consider reality. A lot of this I would just consider pure fantasy, and so not much I can say about that. I'm very sorry about that. But anyway, so let's move along to the next question. And that is from, let me just pull it up here so I can read it properly. User WQ6MT6IB6U. That person. You will be tagged, don't worry. Alright, so the question is, so you believe, Uncle Lee, a golem ever existed? Absolutely, yes. I do. And the most famous one you will find in the history books is the Golem of Prague. Now, there's a lot of different stories. I just want to pull up this page here so I can actually just review some of the information. There's a lot of stories about the Golem of Prague, how it was created and everything else. I mean, there's others, the Golem of Helm, and then there was, let me just check some others here. The Golem of Vilna, this also talks about the theme of hubris, culture within the Czech Republic. And there's also the Clayboy variation, which is from the Slavic folklore. Yiddish stuff, but the Golem of Prague is probably the most famous, and apart from the fact that of its fame, there is a little story that I was told, which I will mention at the end. So let's just have a look at some of these stories. So it really revolves around the Rabbi Lo. His name was Judah Lo ben Bezalel. This is in the 16th century rabbi of Prague, and he created a golem from the banks of the Vltava River, and it was during a time. I'm just trying to get all the names here. The Prague itself was under attack from Rudolf II, who was the Holy Roman Emperor. So the rabbi basically created the golem to protect Prague itself. And the main story is that the Golem would protect Prague the whole week, except on Friday evenings. Rabbi Lowe would then remove the Shem. The basic thing is there was a little scroll, the Shem, gets put into the mouth, and that contains the word which brings it to life, or removes the life. Usually, we talk about that being written on the forehead. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the actual phrase now in Hebrew. Let me just see if I can find it in here quickly. I've completely forgotten it. No, can't find it. But I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's a phrase that in Hebrew means life, and then you remove one letter, and it translates to death. So the whole idea was that this was written usually on the forehead in Hebrew, which brought it to life. And then in order to reverse the whole process of the golem, to stop it being a golem and being active, you would then just remove one of the letters. But this was a Shem, which I'm assuming is they're referring to a scroll which was put into the mouth, because in this particular interpretation it does say the rabbi then managed to pull the Shem from his mouth and immobilize him. But yeah, what he would do he would remove the Shem from the golem, and then on the Friday evening, and then it would rest during the Sabbath, or the Sabbath, which began on Saturday, and then activate it again on Sunday, and go through the whole process. And one week he forgot to remove the Shem from the mouth, and it started getting violent and everything else, and went on a murderous rampage. The rabbi managed to pull the Shem from his mouth and immobilize him in front of the synagogue, whereupon the golem fell in pieces. And then the story goes that the golem's body was actually stored in the attic of the old new synagogue. Anyway, so basically there was a rabbi in Prague who created a golem in order to protect the city or the town. I'm not sure if it's city or town of Prague. And he eventually then just, he made the mistake of not pulling the Shem out of the mouth to immobilize it during the Sabbath, and it went on a violent rage. And then he finally immobilized it just in time, and it fell to pieces, so it became inactive. And then all these pieces were stored in the attic. Now, the story I kind of know is slightly different. There's no way of verifying this absolutely, I don't think. Well, there would be, according to the story I know, but it's almost impossible to actually verify. So the story I know is that the same thing, that Prague was being attacked. A rabbi in Prague created this golem, the Golem of Prague, and it protected the city. And then what happened was the rabbi died before the golem was actually deactivated. Now, within the golem mythology, the practices themselves, the rabbi who created the golem or gave the golem sentience, I suppose you could say life. Golem just doesn't have a spirit. That rabbi has to be the one who takes it down, who deactivates it. Nobody else can do it. So unfortunately, the rabbi died before deactivating the golem. Therefore, the golem is still actually active. But it's not, it's still alive, but it's not active in the sense of it's stomping through the streets and everything else. It is actually chained up in the attic of this synagogue. And there's no way to actually deactivate this golem. So it's kept in there. This attic is, again, the same attic, I believe. It's the same attic I spoke about just now, where all the pieces are stored. That has been, it's the public are not allowed to go into this attic. Now, I'm not sure if the story is that it fell to pieces, it became inactive, and therefore the pieces were just stored in the attic, there's no danger. You know, it's inactive. It's in pieces. It's not even a whole body anymore. So why would it not be? Why would the public not allowed to see that? Be able to see this? And why were the pieces stored in the attic in the first place? Why were they not distributed across the earth or given back to the earth? I mean, this was made from the clay of a river. So why was it not given back to the river? You know, all of these questions start coming up, and then you hear the story of it is still a golem. It's still there. It's just not actively protecting the city anymore, and it is chained up in this attic, and therefore that's why the public are not allowed in, because this thing is still alive and it can't be deactivated because the bloody rabbi is dead. So all these stories get extremely interesting, I must say. But yes, do I believe that a golem ever existed? Absolutely. And you know, we talk about the Golem of Prague, and as I said, there's various other golems within the history books that have been noted. Not just that one. It's definitely a thing, and it's not. You know, I think we focus on the golem as being this anthropomorphic being, which is a physical entity which has been brought to life and is walking around and active, just hasn't been given a spirit kind of thing. But within other areas of magic and spirituality, we talk about possessing a statue with the energy of a god. You know, those statues have been known to get up and walk around. It's quite rare. I mean, you know, it's not something you see every day type of thing. I've never seen it myself, but it is a thing within the history books and within practice itself. I do know somebody who has witnessed this, and you know, I trusted them explicitly. So what they were saying was for me the truth. So yeah, I mean, these things exist. There's nothing, we can't really say they cannot exist, because they definitely do. So yes, absolutely, totally. All right, let's just go over there. I think I'm going to actually leave it there today, so I just want to double check what the next question was. I think it's well, let's actually leave the questions, some more questions for next week. I am kind of starting to run out. I've got 5 questions left, so if you do have questions to add to my list, please do so that we don't run out. You know, I'd hate to do that, because I, as I said before, I really do enjoy the show, and I know a lot of other people enjoy this as well. So if you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments to one of the Ask Uncle Lee videos, and I will add it to the list. All right, have a good one until next time. Cheers for now. Bye bye.